The current situation is really critical. I mean, you have an ongoing conflict between the Nigerian government and Boko Haram, which is now in its 12th year. We've seen thousands of people lose their lives and millions of people displaced. And there is no end in sight to the violence and the suffering that many citizens in the northeastern part of the country are suffering as a result of the conflict. And now you have other unrest and violence issues arising in several other parts of the country, including the Northwest and major parts of the South as well. So all of this really put a lot of pressure on the criminal justice system. Well, in terms of evidence gatherings and prosecution of international crimes that we've seen take place in the country, there have been many gaps. One of the big ones has really been a lack of proper information during the period of arrest up until the period of prosecution of suspects. And that makes any sort of case that the authorities are bringing forward against suspects or defendants very watery. We've seen instances where basic information that the law requires, including the place, the date, the sort of facts surrounding the allegations against the suspects have completely been absent. And that is unacceptable. It's legally unacceptable, and it also has a wider impact in terms of just the scrutiny that citizens and other stakeholders have, and the sort of ideas that they're taking away from the current processes that the government is instituting to ensure that there's accountability for international crimes. So in terms of what needs to change, I think there has to be a lot of focus on the sort of system that is created in the first place, within which people have to work to gather evidence, understanding fully well that the situation is different. So you have army officers in the field now carrying out arrests, and we know fully well that they're not equipped, they're not well trained to document many of the facts that an ordinary police officer would. So we have to ensure that those gaps are being filled up. We have to ensure that there's adequate training to be able to do that, and there's also follow-up investigation that happens immediately after people are arrested and their allegations of crimes. What we've seen is a total lapse of time, sometimes years in between when suspects are arrested and when they're prosecuted. And within that time, it's almost impossible to gather the right sort of evidence. But that also means that there needs to be resources. Investigators have to be trained, and they have to be well equipped with the sort of resources that they need to carry out their job. And this is essentially something that the authorities must prioritize. The International Criminal Court and other international stakeholders are not expecting too much. I think that the current legal framework that Nigeria operates under, including the Constitution, the criminal justice laws, the criminal procedure codes, they're more than adequate to enable the country or the government really effectively deal with these international crimes. But even in the event that we have gaps, or they're just simply not enough to address new and upcoming issues, if there is the right sort of political will, I think this is something that can be easily addressed through the adoption of new laws and new policies. And essentially, that's what the International Criminal Court is asking. Show us that you really prioritize justice and accountability. The international agencies can support Nigeria in really trying to prosecute and ensure justice for many of the international crimes that have been documented across the country by providing technical support. First and foremost, the sort of technical support that helps them better design or build a system within which these crimes can be adequately prosecuted and where citizens can see justice. And after that, really ensuring that people that work within this system are well equipped to be able to do so, to properly investigate, to properly prosecute, to ensure that victims are participating and they're being supported as these processes go on. And really showing what other countries have done, bringing in best practices to show Nigeria and the authorities that this essentially is possible. In terms of their political will towards pursuing accountability for crimes by Boko Haram, we can see that there is some political will. We've had 3 rounds of trials of Boko Haram suspects. Hundreds of people have, been through the justice system. And although these trials were flawed in many ways, and there were many fair trial and due process concerns raised by human rights organizations and other international actors, including Human Rights Watch, I think we've seen consistently that there's been an improvement after each round of trial. But in terms of accountability for crimes by the Nigerian military, I think in that area, there's absolutely no political will. Despite gross allegations of human rights abuses against the military for many years since the insurgency began, there's been no steps to ensure any sort of investigation or a process that allows for citizens to really air their grievances and have the authorities listen. We've seen that in just one instance, the Nigerian government has allowed for an independent panel to carry out some sort of investigation into the activities of the Nigerian military. But even when the panel submitted their reports, it was never made public, it was never adopted, there was never any traction on the issue. And what the Nigerian government must understand is that it cannot pick and choose the issues that it wants to engage on when it comes to international crimes and justice for these crimes. It must holistically tackle all of the problems and all of the perpetrators, whether they're state actors or non-state actors. Nigerians want justice at all levels. And what this really means is that people see that the government or the authorities or those who have the duty to ensure peace and security and justice where crimes have been committed are taking a step towards doing so. So they definitely want to see those who are responsible for the most serious crimes being brought to justice. They certainly want to see their communities rebuilt. They want to have a chance to live lives again as dignified citizens. That's what many people see as justice. And of course, they want an opportunity to air their grievances, whether it is in a proper judicial process or it is in some sort of reconciliatory process that really brings the truth to the fore. And this is justice holistically. That's what Nigerian citizens are looking for. We're going to continue pursuing human rights accountability and doing that in the best way that we can, which is really providing research on impeachable evidence that shows the true situation of things and pushing all of the relevant actors to adopt our recommendations, which is the thing that we see will make change or really work towards making life a little more bearable for people who've been victims of human rights abuses, and essentially just pushing for justice. That's what we do at Human Rights Watch, and I think that's what we're going to continue doing for many years to come.